Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, miércoles el 11 de septiembre. Here is what we covered last class, just to pick up where we left off, en la página 18, el salón de clases. So we took down all the key vocabulary that you guys would associate, or that we would associate with classes. So everything on page 18 that you see here, including the labels. And then the two bullet points referring to the verb haber, conjugated here in the third person, I. I meaning there is or there are, including a number, cardinal number, the ones that we went through together, 0 through 30. And then the items that are on page 18, we use I, followed by a number, and the items to indicate how much there is of an item in a classroom. For example, hay 10 lápices, there are 10 pencils, hay 3 relojes, there are 3 clocks. When using I in front of just one item, rather than using the number 1, which is uno, we change uno in Spanish to either un or una based upon the item being masculine or feminine. Un for masculine and una for feminine nouns. For example, hay un cuaderno, there's a book or one book. Hay una silla, there is a chair or one chair. We did practice activities 1 and 2. Last class, we listened to the conversation between Mrs. Martinez and Miss Alvarez, describing her new Spanish class and classroom, and then based upon the conversation, you indicated if the statements were cierto, true, or falso, false, and if they were false, you corrected the statements in accordance with the conversation that we listened to. And then activity 2, using the notes from up above here on page 19 about the verb I, the verb haber, with your elbow partner, asking and responding to questions about how many, cuantos or cuantas, how many there are of each item in our classroom. For example, cuántas mochilas hay en la clase, how many backpacks are there in the class? I, followed by the number, followed by the item that's asked about in the question. That's what we did last class. Today, you have a handout with your class subjects. And so this is what we're going to do today. You guys are going to, first and foremost, take down this key vocabulary that's on page 20, your classes, and then some useful expressions within the classroom. And I actually have a handout that I'll give you guys that has all of that organized, and that's right here. Useful expressions, and then your different classes. So I'll give that to you all, and then the activity that I'm going to have you guys do is on this paper here to organize your classes. So let's go through this handout together. I'll have you fill in all of these key terms. These are notes. And then you're going to use these notes to complete just the first 3 columns in tu horario de clases. This is your class schedule. The period that you have that class, what class you have during that period, and then 2 to 3 items that you need for that class. ¿Cuándo es la clase? When is it? ¿Qué clase tienes? What class do you have? And ¿qué necesitas para esta clase? What do you need for this class? ¿Cómo es la clase is asking, how is it? How would you describe it? We haven't acquired the vocabulary for that yet, so you can leave this column blank for the time being. So going up to the top to this paper, ¿cuándo is asking when. ¿Qué clase ¿Qué clase tienes is asking what class do you have? ¿Qué necesitas para la clase is asking what do you need for this class. And then ¿Cómo es la clase is asking how is the class, but again, this last question you do not need to include. You do not need to answer. So for the first question, or second question rather, ¿Qué clases tienes? You're going to begin your response with Yo tengo la clase de, and then in this blank is going to go the class. ¿Qué necesitas para esta clase? What do you need? You're going to begin your response with Yo necesito, I need, and then you're going to list some items, such as those on page 18, that you need for that class, 2 to 3. All right, let's go ahead and fill in these periods. In Spanish, the periods of the school day are referred to as horas. Horas. Primera hora is first period. You're writing the English equivalent here in the space provided. Segunda hora is second period. Tercera hora is third period. Cuarta hora is fourth period. So these would be your 8A classes. Quinta hora, fifth period. Sexta hora, sixth period. Séptima hora, seventh period. And octava hora, eighth period. These would be your B-Day classes. Now, classes as they are, and I know this isn't going to cover all of your classes, so if you have an elective, first think about if that elective can fall under an umbrella subject. For example, algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, all of those are math classes, so that would fall under las matemáticas. Química, física, those are science classes, so you can put that under the subject las ciencias. Strength and fitness, basketball, tactics, that's all PE. You can put la educación física. So I think most of your classes are going to fall under one of these subjects. And let's go over them now together. Many of them are on page 18 of the textbook, 20, and in the handout that I gave you. But I want to make sure that you're able to get all of them, so I'll go over them with you now. El inglés is English. El inglés. El español is Spanish. El español. Las matemáticas is mathematics. Las matemáticas. Las ciencias is science. Science. Las ciencias. La biología is biology. La biología. La historia is history. La historia. Las ciencias sociales is social sciences. Las ciencias sociales. Psychology, child development are examples of social sciences. El arte is art. El arte. Las computadoras is computer science. Las computadoras. El álgebra is algebra. El álgebra. La química is chemistry. La química. El ambiente vivo is living earth, or the living environment. Las ciencias de la salud is health science, health class. La educación física is PE. la educación física. La geometría is geometry. Geometría. And then finally, la ciencia de la tierra is earth science. La ciencia de la tierra. If you have a class that does not fall under this umbrella subject, just write it in English for the time being, and then I can help you with the translation in Spanish. Or you guys are welcome to use the dictionary, SpanishDictionary.com or WordReference.com, and look up your classes and how they would be said. And then finally here down below you have things that you would use in the class, and a lot of those are on page 20, the key vocabulary. And 18 as well, the vocabulary that we went over last class. So what I'd like you to do now, armed with all of these notes, is fill in your class schedule on the very back. Nombre is name, fecha is date. In this first column, cuando es la clase, you're going to write the 8 periods in your schedule. Primera hora, segunda hora, tercera hora, cuarta hora, quinta hora, sexta hora, séptima hora, and octava hora. All 8 periods in your schedule. In the second column, ¿qué clase tienes?, you're going to write the class that you have for each of those periods. So, whichever class that corresponds with your 1st through 8th period. That's what's going to go here. So, el arte, el álgebra, las matemáticas, el inglés, whatever period or whatever subject that corresponds with that period. ¿Qué necesitas para esta clase? What do you need for this class? That's what's going to come from here. The different items that are used in your classes. See if you can come up with 2, if not 3 items, and you just list them here, beginning with yo necesito. And if you want, for the second column, you can begin with yo tengo la clase de. That would be good practice. Yo tengo la clase de arte. Yo tengo la clase de biología. Yo tengo la clase de historia. Yo tengo la clase de ciencias de la salud. And again, that 4th column, como es la clase, you could, if you wanted to, since they're all provided here for you, go ahead and use an adjective from this glossary to fill it in, but you don't have to at this time because we've not gone over that vocabulary yet. Your homework is, let's see here, forgive me, your homework is another conversation activity. ¿Qué clase tienes? You can do this, ideally you would do this with a fellow student. I know many of you are utilizing family at home. You can do family. They can come up with a hypothetical schedule. That's fine. But you and a partner are going to greet each other. Hola, buenas tardes, buenos días. Introduce yourselves to one another. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo so-and-so. ¿Y tú? Me llamo so-and-so. Mucho gusto. Igualmente. And then ask about either your A or B day schedule. You do not need to do both. And here's how we ask and answer that question. Referring back to the notes. ¿Qué clase tienes en la primera hora? Is asking what class do you have first period. ¿Qué clase tienes en la segunda hora? What class do you have second period? ¿Qué clase tienes en la tercera hora? ¿Qué clase tienes en la cuarta hora? ¿Qué clase tienes en la quinta hora? Etc. Alright, you're only going to do A or B. So for example, ¿qué clase tienes en la primera hora? What's your first period class? Your response, yo tengo la clase de, refer to your horario de clases. And for example, yo tengo la clase de arte en la primera hora. Yo tengo la clase de geometría en la segunda hora. Yo tengo la clase de inglés en la tercera hora. And then as you're having this conversation with your elbow partner, or your partner, doesn't necessarily need to be your partner in class. It could be though. You're going to say E2, right? So after you respond to their question about what class you have, you're going to redirect that question back to them so that they can provide their class schedule. ¿Qué clase tienes en la primera hora? Yo tengo la clase de inglés en la primera hora. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué clase tienes en la primera hora? So each of you are providing your A or B day schedule. And again, if you're doing this with family, have them come up with a hypothetical schedule. But each person needs to share their schedule for full credit. That is your homework for next class. This is notes for you guys. You don't have to submit this, but I think this will be very helpful to you as you guys are completing the assignment in Canvas, the speaking assignment.